you do want to leave the game in a better place than he's left it. Obviously, he's coming towards the back end of his career. He's open to criticism. He understands that. He's highly paid. He's in a position that dictates results. He's in a club that's struggling. He understands that criticism's coming his way. But when you've got a media platform like Fox Sports blowing it with a blowtorch, that's when it starts to draw the line, and that's when it starts to get like a little bit yuck. So
welcome back to a very special edition, Zoom edition of the YKTR Sports Show. We got Skipper Scope in the building, rocking the new merch, and the boss in at home. How are we?
Yeah, bro, doing good. Just obviously we're in lockdown for another week through YKTR, so just going to keep pumping out content for you guys. So haven't done this in a while. The old Zoom shows reminds me of COVID last year, but looking forward to it.
Skip, you all right?
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited, mate. Obviously, we got the numbers back this morning. The numbers are good. Skip is good. Grateful as per. All the stuff we're doing in the Doozy Club has been grouse. Got a little community building, so everything's good, boys.
You're looking pretty in the old Punters Club hoodie there as well. You like that, don't you?
Yeah, I do like it. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It's as soon as I know the boss and Lukey put in a lot of work with these. When I had to design it myself, I'll admit it was kiddie. So it's good to have good to have the experts back involved. And stoked with this, boys. I've been switching between this and the DGen one the last couple of days. It's just a perfect little fit. So yeah, grateful as.
There you go. Speaking of grateful for Fox Sports, giving our boy Normie a nice little spray over the weekend. Obviously, it seems like an age ago now, but I think we should probably address it off the top. Fox League came out with a post that I don't think we were the only ones that sort of had a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to. Obviously, the whole rugby league community sort of called it out for what it was. We said our piece, but in the days and sort of hours that have rolled on, man, what did you make of that and where are we at now?
Obviously, with it being Corey straight off the bat, that's what caught our attention straight away. But I think universally, like we all sort of agreed that like it's not so much about the post being about Corey, even though that did catch our attention straight away. It's more so the fact that of just how it just didn't make sense. Like sometimes Fox League do these things where they just throw the boys underneath the bus, and they're obviously the biggest like media platform in our game, and they continue to sort of post things like this. So it was obviously like a little bit frustrating, bro. My phone was going off. I didn't actually see the post. I had a bunch of NRL players messaging me going, fuck, look at this. And then by the time I'd actually jumped on Instagram, the post had been deleted. So obviously they knew they were doing something wrong, but just sort of the thought process behind it. You've got someone there, like we make content, so we know how long it takes to sort of put a graphic like that together. That's like a half an hour graphic. Surely the thought process of it when you're going through it is like, I don't feel like this is the right thing to do. And obviously they got a reaction off the back of it. One thing that sort of we talked about, or I talked about with Corey, is making sure that we do have a stand now, because we do want to leave the game in a better place than he's left it. Obviously, he's coming towards the back end of his career. He's open to criticism. He understands that. He's highly paid. He's in a position that dictates results. He's in a club that's struggling. He understands that criticism's coming his way. But when you've got a media platform like Fox Sports blowing it with a blowtorch, that's when it starts to draw the line, and that's when it starts to get like a little bit yuck. So we've got a great game. We've got a bunch of great kids coming through, Reece Walsh and all these sorts of boys. You want to leave the game in a better place than what it is. And it's important for us to make a stand right now on topics like this, because like the next generation that's coming through. And all it takes is just one person on the bad day, on the wrong night with the wrong post, and something scary could happen. So it sounds like a little bit dramatic, but like mental health is a thing right now in this country, and shit like that just doesn't help. I just don't see the point in it.
Skip?
Yeah, mate. Obviously, Ice always, hits all the right points. One thing, again, speaking to Normie, I think was important. I obviously got fired up straight away. I had people reach out to me, and as you've seen, I had my post, and I got after it and was really fucking pissed off. Like I didn't even watch the second game. I was all worked up, and then I started and then I had to pull myself back first, and then just go, all right, fuck, I want to reach out to Normie. So I reached out to Normie. And as I said, it's almost a blessing in disguise that it was a guy like Normie, because this is what we spoke about. I end up FaceTiming him the next day as well. And the point that one of the points that I was talking about, like, if it wasn't Normie, like if it wasn't a guy like Normie who's, been through and might have been a younger player, or, a guy that's been pumped a fair bit over the last couple, because there are so many examples, right, that have been sent to us over the last couple of weeks. A guy like Kyle Flanagan. He's a guy that's been hammered at the Bulldogs recently, and like to have a post like that put to him at this point of his career, he might not have been able to handle it as well as Normie. So Normie, like I said, Normie was, okay, and sort of just was able to rub it off. But that's a point that we spoke about the next day. Like, what if it was a kid that that wouldn't have been able to handle it as well? I think that's important, and that's a big reason. Why I said in my post as well that although it was Normie, there's the bigger picture here, and even if it wasn't Normie, I'm backing myself to do that sort of post again on behalf of whoever it was.
Yeah, and I think we touched on it as well. Like, there was a lot of sort of knee-jerk action. We're going, who was it? Who's the one who did it? But I think Lukey probably summed it up best when he said it's more indicative of the culture in an organization like that and the culture around the game at the moment. That wasn't one person who decided they hated Normie and wanted to make a shit post about Normie. It's the clickbaity sort of gross culture that we've all sort of seen developing, and kind of the reason ICEYU's, partly why the reason why you wanted to start YKTR Sports in the first place. So it's kind of a weird sort of full circle moment in that regard, but we're not blaming the person who posted that. We're blaming or at least calling out the sort of culture around that. They're happy to bump up Latrell and all the boys when they're calling out trolls when it's popular. And the second that bagging Normie or bagging another player is popular, they pivot. So I think that was kind of more of our wider point, yeah?
Yeah, and obviously, like, I was on the phone to Nudo, like, pretty much straight off the bat, just saying, what's the go here? What's the best way to approach it? And he went straight to the head of Fox Sports. So Fox Sports and Fox League, they're different entities as well, different media companies as well. So we're looking at Fox Sports, and like, we see all the personalities that are associated with it, the Matty Johns, Yvonne Sampsons, or like, well, why can't we get an apology from these people? They're actually different media companies as well. So it's kind of hard because we start to get angry at Fox Sports or Fox League, and we kind of congregate these people all into a certain type. Same way when a rugby league player fucks up, and we're like, all league players are bad people. No, that's not the case. But there is a flaw in the system somewhere. And that's just the thing that we need to change. But in saying that, when I woke up the next day, I was thinking, like, even though we're angry at this, like, it kind of justifies what we're trying to do here at YKTR Sports and Bloke in the Bar and Hello Sports and any of these sub-media platforms that, like, they don't appreciate what they've got. They're just sort of taking it for what it is, and they're driving traffic towards us. You know what I mean? So that was kind of like the upside of it as well. But it needs to go. It needs to be out of the game. I think direct messages to NRL players need to be out of the game. Like everyone knows, I've got Corey's Instagram account, and on the weekend, I've started screenshotting some of the stuff. I get angry and I'm about to post and I'm about to tag them, to people in them, but I don't think it's the right way to do it as well. I don't think singling out certain people. We had a guy whose tweet was actually in the photo. He sort of reached out and said, like, he had a justified reason. And like, we're fans of sports. The reason why we started YKTR Sports is because we're fucking fans of sports as well. So we understand frustration. We understand that your team's not always going to win. But there has to be a line. We have to draw the line somewhere of getting in direct contact with players. You can't be going like, fuck you, Normie, you should end your life, shit like that. That's a line in the sand that we need to fucking get rid of straight away. And that's the balance that we need to find right now, because social media has opened up the world and you can get direct contact to them, but man, we're going to use our platform to try and stop this, to try and break down that yuckiness at the moment. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think it's important just to add to that as well. What I said, that it's probably the same guy that we've been in. I've been in contact with all weekend. He reached out, and it even filtered into just more shit. And like, this is another aspect you've got to take into consideration from the post from Fox, is that, he's a passionate fan. He's been following the Dragons for a minute. He let his emotions get the best of him and attacked Normie's play, not personally. So he didn't go over the line in terms of, he was just he was criticising the way Normie was playing in the game. And I've said all along, that's, I do that the same when I follow the Green Bay Packers. I actually don't. I never get on my phone and critique it. But if you got a fucking Zoom set up at home with me watching a Packers game, geez, I've given a few of the Packers players a sparing me time. So look, I've got no problem with that. And then me and him have had back and forth now over the last couple of days, and I've had a guy attack me for sticking up for him. And I said to him, bro, like, he goes, you're supposed to be mates with Normie. And I said, well, yeah, bro. I reached out to Normie and Normie accepted the apology. What else do you want me to do for this? And And then what I started to realize with, and this is where I started to sort of try to flip it after I gathered myself as well. I got emotional on the Friday as well, is that, hate doesn't fix hate. So going over and trying to go at this guy again, trying to make sure that, some of the people that were involved in that post, that they're all right. Their mental health as well. I think that's important because this guy's actually been hammered. I think he started a new Instagram account because he was copping abuse and people were telling him to kill himself and all this sort of stuff. So just another...
you don't want that.
Yeah, exactly. So just another part to be mindful of in all of this, and just a pretty ugly situation over the weekend. But like I said, to him, the way that we deal with it as players in the past, or an ex-player, or doing what we do now is, everything sort of just goes away with time. Remove yourself for a little bit, like I did. Like I said, I went back at one person on Instagram and then realized I'm just adding to the fucking noise here. So I got myself off and, refreshed myself, had that message with that screenshot with that interaction that I had with one of the guys that was in the post. And I just felt a whole lot better about myself the next day, going down, taking that road. So, I think that was the right way to go. And if the next couple of days it'd be nice to get an apology from Fox, but if it doesn't happen, I'm probably not expecting it.
Yeah, I think we'll probably leave that there. The most important thing for us, obviously, is Normie's sweet with everything. So that was probably to be expected. But listen, the issue has been highlighted, and we're hoping that there can be a cultural shift. And if we can, us, the Denons of the world, Rocies of the world, can somehow be a part of that, that's why we're here, baby. But let's talk a bit of X's and O's scope. I'm going to start with you on this one because it was a Scope Cup 2.0. And true to the Scope's prediction, 56 are the best for Manly. We will touch on Manly in the back end, but I want to start with Para, mate, because obviously it's alarm bells at the moment. I think they're on a 4-game slid or something, slid down to 6 now. What did you make of the game?
Slide.
Obviously, slide. Obviously, Para moving forward, mate.
Oh, bit like BA, mate. Obviously got ties to both teams, so it does hurt to see. Like I said, I predicted this scoreline. We, in our little group chat, we talked about this could be an ugly game for them. And, from the first set, the second tackle, they just never recovered. And they look lost, mate. They look, I think, just across the park. They're looking for answers. They need some confidence. They're not going to get it because the games are only going to get harder. I think they've got one team outside of the top 6, like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago with their run home of doom. It's going to be a tough period for Parramatta Eels, and that was exactly the bounce back that I expected from Manly due to what they'd been tossing up in the last couple of months. To think, we'll obviously get into Turbo as well, but Ice, you got anything more to add about Parramatta?
No, it's a leaky club. It always has been. We sort of done a sort of conversation last week about alignment. And they're sort of like the Green Bay Packers, aren't they? There's always something going wrong with the front office. And the reason why, like, good clubs, they don't leak information. The boys could have a punch on at training, you'd never find out. As soon as Clint Guffison's going for a contract negotiation, shit just leaks out straight away. By the time he's got back into his car, there's someone at Fox Sports reporting on it as well. So clubs like that, man, there's always something wrong with them. So you can see that sort of playing out on the field. Do feel sorry for Brad Arthur, really good coach. I can't see them winning too many games from here on out. It's just a confidence thing, man. Confidence is a wonderful thing. And if you could sell it by the bottle, you'd be worth billions. And I don't think anyone in their team's got it right now.
Just before we jump off Para, can I ask you 2 things? Is it as simple as Reid Marnie being out? And the second thing is Brad Arthur said after the game, he goes, I think we just need to get away from football for a week. Maybe the head noise is too much. Is that, I'm trying to look for answers as well, but is that something that you think could work?
Yeah, back in the day, they used to have a thing called a team piss up. So whenever you'd lose 3 in a row, the coach would go, all right, boys, get down to the pub Monday. We're going to tear one in. And you get blind. And I don't know, it seemed to work back in the day. You can't really do that anymore.
Come out as well.
Yeah. And the boys start calling each other out. Obviously, you don't want to turn into a drunken fight, but man, there's some frustrated boys after a few beers aren't afraid to speak up, especially those Quiet Islander boys as well. So that's how he used to do it. And fuck, we sound like old school players here, like back in our time. But yeah, now they do it. Just get away from football. And when you're losing, everything seems to feel worse. You don't sleep as well. Food don't taste as good. People on the road are a little bit annoying. So I think that play from Brad Arthur was a good one. Not everyone's going to agree with it. But sometimes you just feel bottled down with football. It's a draining profession to be in, and getting time away is sometimes the remedy that they need. So hopefully they come back in the training, feel a lot more relaxed. Still a wonderfully talented side. You still got Dylan Brown in there, Mitchell Moses' class, Guffo's there as well. He's always up for it as well. And they've got a really good forward pack. So how they bounce back from this week is going to be really interesting. And hopefully a couple of days off does it for the blue and gold.
Yeah, Skip, just on the day off approach, something you probably wouldn't mind adopting.
Oh, mate, I love the day off. Fucking at every club I played at, whether we won fucking 3 in a row or lost 3 in a row. So, Paul Lukey was on life support on Friday. When was it? Saturday night after the game, and he was messaging me. And he was going, "What's wrong?" And there's one thing I told him. I said, "Look, I didn't realise it until I left Para, but there's always been this stigma around the club, and there's like a perception from other clubs when they play Para that there's always a lot of shit going on around Para, and there's a lot of finger pointing, and this is what Ice is talking about with regards to the front office. It's been there for as long as I can remember, and it even goes back to some of the old boys. Like the old boys from the glory years aren't afraid to have their say, and deservedly so. Like what happens is the journos seem to get into them whenever Para go on a skid, and the older boys are happy to get in and have their say. And then there've always been these conversations above, like we're not even talking coaching, I'm talking like administration and owners behind the scenes and silent owners and all this sort of stuff. And what that does is it creates finger pointing and finger pointing like from the top. Vice talked about it on his inside YKTR, so the inner circle, sorry. And then once it starts at the top, it just filters on down. So like you said, when you have those piss ups and a few hard truths need to be given, and they come out at this time, and you start to realize, one player might say something and you go, I wonder how long he's been holding. We joke around about it, but whenever someone says anything and there's a little bit in it, how long has he been thinking about that for? So that's at the core. I know it's pretty deep to be diving into it that internally, but that's my opinion from playing at the club and then moving on, and then how they were viewed by Manly when I got to Manly.
Well, let's jump over to Manly then, because Turbo is just doing Turbo things, absolutely taking the piss, and did it with a little fractured cheekbone as well. Ice, we'll start with you. Firstly, on Turbo's performance, Manly fucking racking up 50 the best, but then secondly, his injury deal, no big deal. What do you reckon?
As they say, he's only going to be out for a week or two. I see it as no big deal. Obviously, Ruben Garrett can go back there. He's not going to be the Tommy Turbo. I don't think anyone is, but there's enough football. I'm probably going to talk less about Tommy and more about Manly as a football side. Like, there's the saying, like, oh, he's just a footballer. And Manly have got more than anyone. Like, both the Trbojevic boys can play football. DCE can play football. Fozzie's got it in them. Schuster's got it in them as well. They're just a great side to watch. And we always talk about, like, shape and shots and sort of stuff like that. When you watch Manly, you just don't know where they're going to attack from. DCE, like, there's something about Manly, and they've always had it. They've never been afraid to throw football, whether they're up by 6, up by 16, up by 60. Man, just is a wonderful side to watch. And I generally think they are a genuine threat to Melbourne. I think Penrith were like a little bit shaky, even with Nathan Cleary back. I thought he was good, but man, when you try and do video on Melbourne, a lot of the time you're watching Tommy, but a lot of their tries come from far back as well. So they're always up to play football. They've got beautiful shape on both sides. Obviously, DCE's kicking game is elite. He kicks early, he kicks late. He knows when to find the line. It's just a beautifully balanced team right now, and they're a pleasure to watch.
Skip?
I think this sets up perfectly, boys. Skip's been talking about it for a minute. They roll into this week against the Raiders, who have been playing, the last 4 or 5 weeks have been not too bad. But obviously I still think they could beat them. But like I said all along, if they ended up slipping up on this game and then, favourable last 2 games to roll into the finals and finish in that 5th spot, where I thought it wouldn't be the worst thing ever to happen for him. I know, I've spoken to our boys. We've got, strong relationships still with the club, as you know. They come out of that game really confident against Melbourne, the boys. They realised that they played the best. They recognise that Melbourne are the best team, but they know that there's a lot of improvement in them, and the opportunity, they feel like they'll get another opportunity to play him down the road. And if Turbo gets a nice little freshen up, he always, as you know, he's missed a few games at the start of the year, come back strong, missed a couple of games around Origin time, come back strong. So if this injury in itself might not be the worst thing, and if Turbo just misses this week, first of all, his toughness, because it looked like, I think it happened early in the first 20 minutes or whatever. Was it the head knock on Garrick when he was trying to stop
I think it was start of the second half when Sivo came over and hit him pretty hard as he was falling.
Yeah, and I believe he's had that, injured that cheekbone before, and I think there's a plate in there. So some of these players, like you mentioned Nathan Cleary as well, Ice, we had, I joked around about not joked around, I'll let you know I had that same shoulder injury. We end up getting the correct term for it in the YouTube comments, by the way, whereas a partial dislocation. Like, I come off straight away in that game, by the way. Nathan Cleary's played the rest of Origin. Fucking, he did it in the first 10 minutes. So, mate, these top tier players, that's what separates them from the rest. They're fucking so, can't speak highly of their toughness. And I was really impressed with Nathan on the weekend, and I've been beating the drum about Manly and in particular the Rabbitohs about being, now the biggest threat. But you just see what Nathan unlocks for the Penrith, and what Matt Burton and in particular Jerome Luai is able to do. It could.
That stat where I think Cooper Cronk put it up there. Jerome Luai hasn't done a try assist in 8 games since Nathan's been out.
Fuck.
Yeah, so that shows how important Nathan is to the boys.
Yeah,
just
for sure.
On Nathan Ice, before we move off this, him coming back into that Panther side, obviously when they were undefeated, season was still rolling, and he was at the start of the year, they were the red hot favourites. He goes down, you see Manly and Melbourne surge up. Do you still put Penrith in that sort of premiership top 2-3 spot with Nath back, or do you think the Rabbitohs have maybe slid in?
Yeah, definitely back in that sort of conversation with Nathan there. Obviously, Brian To'o's still got to come back. He's still got Fisher Harris to come back as well. Man, he's probably as much as Nathan Cleary is a big loss, he's probably the next one behind him, I reckon, in my opinion. Their go forward isn't quite the same. Their sort of block shapes off the back of Yowie aren't the same as well. So I think he rolls back in this week or week after. What's the go of TPJ?
I don't know.
I think he was close to playing last week, but he had personal issues, boys. He had some family stuff that happened to him. So I think Ivan held him back because of that, because he had to shoot back and check in on family, mate.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so you've got probably two of the stronger carriers of the ball coming back in, which is just going to get quick play of the balls and then lets everyone else free up. But I think Brian To'o is a big one coming back as well. So they're going to be limping into the finals a little bit. Which doesn't help. You want to be sort of like flying in with form like Manly are, but there's still enough talent to get by. Hopefully, if they can get past that first round and have a week off, I think that sets them up for the major semi pretty well. Yeah, that's important. They don't want to be playing every game.
Well, they got, like I said in that little graph that I did wrote up, and just quickly mentioning the 3 points a couple of points that you said before, Ice. Brian To'o for me is their best outside back. Nathan Cleary is their fucking most important piece, and James Fisher Harris in the middle is their most important middle, probably hand in hand with Isaiah Yao. But, at all 3 levels, it's important to have when all those 3 guys come back, then we'll see the real Panthers. But like I said, with that bracket that I did up, I had, no matter what, all the other results were, apart from Melbourne finishing first, Rabbitohs and Panthers are going to finish 2 and 3 no matter what. So they're going to play each other first round. And with it, what I'm saying from South, I just can't see Penrith beating them at this moment. So then their road becomes tougher, and then therefore they flip and end up on the same side of Melbourne, which is, for me, just going to be a monumental task for them. That's why I've sort of, looking at that graph and how I believe that plays out, that's just why I can't see Penrith doing anything this year. I think it's going to be too hard for them. Whereas, the other 2 teams that we mentioned, if Manly can avoid Melbourne and end up playing probably 8th spot if they finish in 5th, because Parramatta are well and truly going to finish at 6th, then, that'll suit them to a T, have a bit of a softer run, come up against South in that prelim final, like that's mouthwatering right now. Like I had someone, message me and ask, a Manly Rabbitohs grand final, how good would that be? I just can't see it happening with the way the draw plays out. I think they're going to be playing each other in the prelim, but it's going to be grouse no matter who comes out of that game, because that is like a genuine coin flip for me. Like I'd love Melbourne, Manly to go through, but there's no way I'm backing putting any money on them against South in that prelim final if that's the way it plays out.
There you go, Scope. You've done your segue for me. Talking about South Sydney, Cody Walker playing all right at this time of the year. Yeah, Wayne Bennett came out praising him, which is a bit rare for old Wayne, but heaping a bunch of praise on him. Fucking killing it at the moment, leading try assists by a fucking country mile. With Turbo going down, people throwing out he might be a little Dally M smoky. Ice, where do you reckon Cody finishes in that conversation?
Yeah, I haven't looked at the point system. I think when they went behind, Nathan Cleary was still up by 4. Yeah. Obviously, Tommy and Nathan have been the most standout players, but because they've had injuries, man, Cody Walker's just sort of been ticking along. And like we know the Rabbitohs are going well, but it's like they're kind of out of sight. It's weird. Like they've won so many games, but no one's really watching them. I don't really watch them play too much. I watch their highlights and watch all the beautiful plays that they put on. But man, Cody Walker's been special. If he gets it, be well deserved. It's going to be a bit of a crazy run. So I'm looking forward to how he goes in the finals as well. Like Scope sort of talked about this little finals lineup. Probably the most excited I've been for finals series in a long, long time. And with it being like a genuine 3 to 4 horse race, and honestly, anyone can honestly win it. Like Melbourne are starting to limp into this. They're starting to, but they don't look as good as what they were. Everyone's looking like a little bit tired. Obviously, Jerome got knocked out on the weekend, so he might be out for a week. So Nico Hines might move in, or does Cooper Cronk? That might be a blessing in disguise for Melbourne. I know we're talking about South right now, but I think Nico Hines rolling into the halves and giving Pappy a full 80 to get his confidence back, I think it's going to be vital.
Yeah, you mentioned Cooper Cronk. It's Cooper Johns. I'll correct you on that before we get in the YouTube comments, obviously. Yeah, like it's going to be fun. I have been watching heaps of Souths. Souths have been fucking a pleasure to watch. Like they're in particular their left edge, but some unheralded guys in the forward pack, like Jaden Silver's been around for a while and everyone knows that name. But Colomantungi, bro, Keon Colomantungi, he's been unreal, and he plays a nice little linking role through the middle too if they need to spell Cam Murray, who does that so well. Jai Arrow, everyone knows about Jai Arrow. So their forward pack has just been really laying a platform for him, and like Cody's efforts this year, we're going to be able to do a little blog on it. Like he's 6 off the try assist record that Timmy Smith had way back when, and yeah, he's a good chance of getting it. Ren's breaking records, he's breaking records. South's 30 points in a row, 10 consecutive games with 30 points in a row. They're flying. They're very hard, and defensively they've been pretty good as well. So the point that you made just quickly off the top about Cody Walker too from Wayne Bennett, that is fucking high praise. Wayne's been around for a minute, man. So like you said, he doesn't give those sorts of compliments out often at all. So, geez, that's a nice little wrap for his number 6.
I think the only thing that probably, not the only thing, because obviously Turbo is still the red hot favourite for Dally M, but the thing that probably holds Cody back is he splits points with Latrell and Wren and Cookie in a lot of games, whereas a guy like Tommy, respectfully to all the other boys in Manly, he's probably only split points with DC and Schuster a couple of times. Like every time he plays, he's the best on the field. So, but it's going to be interesting nonetheless.
Don't sleep on the pool cleaner.
Yeah, and the pool cleaner, of course.
Pool cleaner got a hat-trick one game.
He did. Let's jump down to the bottom, mate.
Sorry, just one thing on the Rabbitohs. I think they've got they have to win now or it's never. You know what I mean? You look at Penrith. They've still got a young side and they can probably bounce back. Wayne Bennett's gone next year. Adam Reynolds gone. So maybe the conversations behind the scenes is like, fuck boys, it's like now or never. So they're all sort of buying in, and that could be a really massive benefit to those boys.
They're aging across the roster. Even Cody Walker, Cookie, Benji, like they're not super young across the board. So I'll take your point. Sorry.
Okay, just saying that.
Sorry, boys. Let's wrap this up. Then we'll jump down to the bottom, mate, because this is Scope. You know where I'm going here. This is where the real excitement package is. We start to use the word mathematical. Sides 8 to 13. You know who's sitting in 12th too. The guys that are a mathematical chance of getting in that 8th spot. How do you see it playing out, mate?
Joshy Curran's Warriors.
How do you see it playing out, scope the bottom there?
So far, everything that I predicted a couple of weeks ago is playing out as per, boys. I've got the Knights going on around massive. If Daniel Saifidi, who went down yesterday, would look to be a knee injury, he had his knee heavily strapped. If he ends up missing any footy in the next couple of weeks, that could be massive. But I'm still pretty confident Knights 7 and Gold Coast Titans 8th, boys.
Nice.
See Knights going 7th, play Para straight up, so that'll be good as well. But yeah, I see Titans just sneaking in the 8th spot as well.
All right. Well, you're both wrong, but it's a good way to wrap it up. The Warriors will finish 8th, and they will charge on to win the premiership. Cheers, boys. We'll see you on Wednesday.